Donald Trump had this to say: "A very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling, but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away, together with his wife, Michele, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump Derangement Syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald Trump, with his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness, and with the golden age of America upon us, perhaps like never before. May Rob and Michele rest in peace." Remembering Rob Reiner, Hollywood's king of storytelling. Rob Reiner's life and death have become one of the most shocking Hollywood stories of this decade, blending an extraordinary creative legacy with a deeply disturbing end that has left the industry and fans in disbelief. Rob Reiner was born on March 6, 1947, in the Bronx, New York. He was the son of legendary writer, director, and comedian Carl Reiner and actress and singer Estelle Reiner. Growing up, he was surrounded by comedy and show business. His father was a major creative force on classic television shows like Your Show of Shows and The Dick Van Dyke Show, and the family's circle included figures such as Mel Brooks and Sid Caesar, giving Rob a front-row seat to the golden age of American comedy. That environment shaped his sense of timing, character, and story, and from a young age, it was clear he was likely to follow his parents into entertainment. Reiner attended Beverly Hills High School after the family moved to California, and later studied at UCLA, where he became more serious about acting and filmmaking. Before his major breakthrough, he did guest roles on television and worked as a writer and performer on shows such as The Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour, further honing his comedic instincts and political edge. This combination of performance, writing, and social awareness would later define both his career and his public persona. His fame exploded in the early 1970s when he was cast as Michael Meathead Stivic, the liberal son-in-law on the groundbreaking sitcom All in the Family. The show, created by Norman Lear, tackled race, class, sexism, and politics in prime time, and the clashes between Meathead and Archie Bunker reflected the real cultural battles playing out in American living rooms. Reiner's performance earned him 2 Emmy Awards and turned him into a recognizable face at a time when television was pushing boundaries and forcing viewers to confront uncomfortable issues. Despite that success, Reiner did not want to be defined only as an actor. By the early 1980s, he pivoted into directing with remarkable impact. His 1984 mockumentary, This Is Spinal Tap, became a cult classic, satirizing rock bands with such detail that many viewers initially thought it was a real documentary. He followed that with Stand By Me in 1986, a coming-of-age drama based on a Stephen King novella, which captured the pain and nostalgia of childhood friendships, and is still regarded as one of the greatest teen films ever made. Reiner's hot streak continued with The Princess Bride in 1987, a film that blended fairy tale, romance, adventure, and meta-humor in a way that appealed to both children and adults. The movie featured Andre the Giant, the former WWF World Heavyweight Champion who played as the gentle giant Fezzik. In 1989, he directed When Harry Met Sally, the Rob Reiner-Nora Ephron collaboration that helped redefine the modern romantic comedy with its focus on friendship, timing, and whether men and women could truly be just friends. He then proved his range again with the psychological thriller Misery in 1990, based on Stephen King's 1987 novel and stars James Caan as famed novelist Paul Sheldon, who is held captive by Annie Wilkes, an obsessive fan who is played by Kathy Bates, which earned her an Oscar for her performance. And then courtroom drama A Few Good Men. In 1992, whose climactic confrontation between Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson became one of the most quoted scenes in movie history. You Can't Handle the Truth. Beyond those marquee titles, Reiner built a diverse filmography as a director and producer, including The Sure Thing, North, The American President, Ghosts of Mississippi, and later projects like The Bucket List, Flipped, and political dramas such as The Contender and Shock and Awe. His movies often balanced mainstream appeal with moral or political themes, whether examining civil rights in Ghosts of Mississippi or the ethics of power in A Few Good Men and The American President. Even when some later films received mixed reviews, his reputation as a director who could move between comedy, romance, drama, and suspense remained firmly intact. Reiner's personal life was deeply intertwined with Hollywood as well. In 1971, he married actress and future director Penny Marshall, and later Reiner adopted Penny's daughter Tracy from a previous marriage. Tracy became an actress and appeared in films such as A League of Their Own and Apollo 13. Their marriage ended in divorce in 1981, but both continued to be major creative forces in Hollywood, and their family remained part of the industry's extended creative network. In 1989, Reiner married photographer and producer Michele Singer after meeting her during the making of When Harry Met Sally, and the couple later collaborated both professionally and on philanthropy and activism. Rob and Michele had 3 children together, sons Jake and Nick and daughter Romy. Jake Reiner has worked in media and sports broadcasting and in various behind-the-scenes roles in entertainment, at times collaborating with his father on projects and sharing his love of baseball. Romy Reiner has worked in creative fields and maintained a public presence on social media. She wrote and produced Born Again Virgin, which is still in production, about a modern world of increasingly meaningless dating apps and superficial relationships. Nick Reiner became known partly through his struggles with addiction and co-writing the semi-autobiographical film Being Charlie, which his father directed. Reiner was also known for his outspoken political activism. He became a prominent liberal voice in Hollywood, frequently criticizing Republican presidents and especially Donald Trump, and appearing on cable news and at public events to make his case on issues from democracy to media responsibility. He helped lead and support initiatives such as early childhood development programs in California, including high-profile campaigns around ballot measures to fund preschool and children's services through tobacco taxes. Reiner's activism extended to support for marriage equality, voting rights, and efforts to combat disinformation, making him a frequent target of conservative commentators, but also a respected figure among progressive activists and Democratic politicians. His political engagement did create controversy at times. Critics accused him of being too partisan and of letting politics overshadow his filmmaking, and some conservative viewers boycotted his work or attacked him online. Reiner himself rarely backed down, using interviews and social media to argue that artists had a responsibility to speak out about injustice and threats to democracy. That tension between entertainer and activist became part of his public identity and shaped how different audiences perceived him. On December 14, 2025, the story took a dark turn. Rob Reiner, age 78, and his wife Michele, 68, were found dead in their Brentwood home in Los Angeles. According to law enforcement and multiple major outlets, first responders were called to the residence in the mid-afternoon, where the couple was discovered with injuries consistent with stab wounds, and the case was immediately treated as an apparent double homicide. The Los Angeles Police Department's Robbery Homicide Division assumed control of the investigation, and officials described the situation publicly as an apparent homicide, while withholding many details pending a coroner's report. Coverage from Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, Reuters, and other outlets reported that the couple's bodies were found inside their Brentwood residence and that there were no signs of a broader public threat, suggesting this was a targeted crime rather than a random attack. Early reporting indicated that the Los Angeles Fire Department had responded to a medical aid call and then alerted police once the circumstances were clear, with detectives and forensic teams working the scene into the evening. The exact timeline inside the house and the events leading up to the killings have not yet been fully disclosed to the public. Very quickly, attention turned to the couple's son, Nick Reiner. Entertainment and news outlets, citing unnamed sources close to the family and the investigation, reported that Nick was being treated as a key figure in the case. Some reports stated that multiple sources told People and other publications that Nick was suspected of stabbing his parents, while emphasizing that police had not officially charged him and that no arrests had been announced. As of the latest updates, law enforcement officials have confirmed that they are questioning him and examining his history, but have stopped, short of publicly naming him as the suspect or detailing evidence against him, underscoring that the investigation is ongoing. Nick's long-documented struggles with substance abuse and periods of instability have been widely recirculated in this context. Past interviews and profiles described his battles with addiction, stints in rehab, and times when he experienced homelessness despite his family's wealth. And those details have resurfaced as the public tries to make sense of the alleged family tragedy. The connection between that history and the current case remains unproven in any official sense, and investigators have not released any formal motive, but the story has intensified public scrutiny of the pressures and fractures that can exist even inside prominent Hollywood families. The family has issued a short statement confirming the deaths and asking for privacy. In statements shared with outlets like Variety and Deadline, relatives described being devastated and referred to the deaths as an untimely passing and a tragic loss, while avoiding public comment on the investigation itself. Those statements emphasized their love for Rob and Michele and asked that the focus remain on their lives and legacies rather than speculation. Rob Reiner is survived by his daughter Tracy from his marriage to Penny Marshall and by his 3 children with Michele, Jake, Nick, and Romy. He is also survived by grandchildren and extended family from both the Reiner and Marshall sides, as well as by fans and collaborators who considered him a mentor and friend. His father, Carl Reiner, died in 2020, but the creative line that began with Carl and continued through Rob now passes through his children and the many artists he influenced. Hollywood's reaction has been intense and emotional. The Hollywood Reporter, Variety, and other major outlets have run extensive tributes, highlighting how rare it was for one person to leave such a mark on both television and film. Directors, actors, and writers have called Reiner a giant, a mentor and a storyteller who changed the game, pointing to the fact that his work helped define multiple genres: the socially conscious sitcom, the modern romantic comedy, the coming-of-age drama, and the satirical mockumentary. Social media has flooded with clips from his movies, behind-the-scenes photos, and personal stories from cast and crew who say he created safe, collaborative sets and pushed everyone to bring their best. And political figures have also weighed in. Statements from figures such as California officials and national politicians have described him as someone whose work made people laugh, think, and care, and whose absence will be felt not just in theaters, but in public debates about democracy and justice. Given Reiner's outspoken support for democratic causes and his criticism of Donald Trump and other conservative figures, tributes have come from political leaders who viewed him as both an artist and an ally. Donald Trump had this to say: "A very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling, but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away, together with his wife, Michele, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump Derangement Syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald Trump, with his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness, and with the golden age of America upon us, perhaps like never before. May Rob and Michele rest in peace. His combination of Hollywood influence and political engagement made him one of the most prominent celebrity activists of his generation. Reiner's career was not without criticism. Some audiences felt that his later films lacked the spark of his 1980s run, and a segment of viewers rejected his work outright because of his political positions. Right-wing media figures often singled him out on social platforms and TV, mocking his statements about Trump, Russia, or voting rights, and he, in turn, rarely held back in his. Still, even some who disagreed with him politically acknowledged his impact on film and television, and recognized that his best work transcended partisan lines. What remains now is a legacy that is both towering and tragic. On one side is the filmography, All in the Family, as one of the most important sitcoms in TV history. This is Spinal Tap, as a touchstone for mockumentary. Comedy Stand By Me and The Princess Bride, as endlessly rewatched classics, When Harry Met Sally. Misery and A Few Good Men, as benchmarks in their respective genres. On the other side is the shocking reality that this same man, who spent his life telling stories about justice, morality, friendship, and love, died violently in his own home under circumstances still being pieced together. That contrast is part of why the world continues to follow every update in the case and to revisit his work with a new sense of poignancy. As investigations proceed, authorities are expected to release more information after the coroner's office completes its work and detectives finish processing evidence and interviews. LAPD is publicly describing the matter as an active, ongoing homicide investigation involving a high-profile Hollywood figure and his wife. Until more facts are confirmed, much of what is circulating about motives or specific events inside the home remains speculative, and reputable outlets are emphasizing the importance of distinguishing confirmed information from rumor. Although there is word that his son Nick has been arrested and bail of $4 million has been put into place. Rob Reiner's death closes the chapter on a life that helped shape how stories are told on screen and how artists can use their platform in the political arena. He leaves behind children, grandchildren, colleagues, and fans who will carry his memory, and a body of work that will continue to be studied in film schools, rewatched by families, and referenced in pop culture for decades to come. His films, television work, and activism ensure that, even in the midst of tragedy and unanswered questions, Rob Reiner's influence on Hollywood and American culture will not fade. Rest in paradise, Rob and Michele Reiner.